One of the many benefits of coming to San Diego Comic-Con are the movie premieres, and last night I got a chance to check out Batman: The Killing Joke. This is the animated adaptation of the classic Alan Moore and Brian Boland comic book from the 80s, and I got to tell you that it's controversial, it's gut-wrenching, it's a little, psychologically twisted, and it's also a little bit anticlimactic because we all kind of know, especially any Batman fan out there, what goes down in The Killing Joke. And, for the one or two of you that have never read this book or don't know anything about it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but the moment is obviously well illustrated, well animated in this movie. You do get a sense of, a real connection to the moment that some of us had. I remember reading this book as it came off the shelves in the 80s and being shocked and horrified. And so that moment is well recaptured, and I think they did a good job with that. But because it is just pretty much a straight adaptation of the comic, there isn't really any shock or surprise, and it's a kind of a simple story. And so what the filmmakers did, under the guidance of Bruce Timm, who's the executive producer here, Sam Liu is the director, is they crafted a little bit more of a backstory for our Barbara Gordon and our Batgirl, and that is also a new element of controversy in this movie. Now, Batgirl, we didn't really get to see too much of her before the shocking stuff happens in the Killing Joke comic. In this, we get an extra 30 minutes of story. We get to see Batgirl running through the streets of Gotham and on the rooftops of Gotham, chasing down a criminal. Goes by the name of Paris Franz, and there's a nice gag about that. So there's a nice little, touch of humor in there. We also get to see a Batgirl that has a ton of emotion. She's very kind of conflicted about her emotions for Batman as not only her boss and her mentor and a bit of a father figure, but there's more to that. And I don't want to spoil it, but it gets a little shocking what happens between Batman and Batgirl. And it does add some color, and it does add some flavor, and it does add a little bit more connection to our Barbara Gordon and our Batgirl. And, to that end, I think there is an effective kind of transition that happens when more of that shocking stuff happens with Batgirl later on. But it also brings in a whole bunch of other uncomfortable feelings. And maybe that was the idea from Bruce Timm and his team, was to sort of, meet controversy with more controversy and shock for shock to make this something that people do talk about. I do think that people should go and see this movie, but I have to tell you that something happens when you have these archetypal, pillars, these stories that just stand out in time in the comics world, and then they get adapted for movies or animated work, is that they get referenced so often, and they get alluded to, and there's so many connections, whether it's in other animated work or video games or other comics, and so these moments become just historically significant and less powerful, and that's kind of what happens, I think, here with The Killing Joke. The core sort of underpinnings of The Killing Joke story are not shocking like they were in the 80s in 2016, and that's a little bit of an undermine for why you would want to get this thing made in the first place. It does serve as a great, kind of touchstone in the careers of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, who just seem to be going, and knocking things off the shelf that they want to make at this point. They want to sort of take their Batman and their Joker characterizations and see how many different versions of these characters they can portray over time. And of course, they want to hit the masterworks out there. And I would qualify The Killing Joke as one of those. I've seen them do better work, and I was interviewing Kevin Conroy yesterday before the movie, and I was telling him how just blown away I was by his performance in Arkham Knight, which I think to this day stands as his strongest performance as Batman. And he thanked me. He thought I was incredibly gracious because he hadn't heard that, and he felt that himself for the work that he had to do in that game. And so when you contrast, the unbelievable levels that this guy had to do in that performance in that game compared to what we've got here, which is kind of a clipped, emotionless, kind of stunted, kind of a jerky Batman, which is pretty easy territory for a man of Kevin Conroy's caliber. It just doesn't hit, doesn't have that same sort of entertainment punch, in terms of performance. Now, Mark Hamill is absolutely a standout in this movie, and this is honestly, it's really colored as a Joker origin story, and there is some really fantastic stuff in there where we get to see the Joker before he becomes the man in the red hood and the man that has, the grotesque face and all of that stuff. And it adds a little bit of sensitivity to the story. It almost humanizes this grotesque caricature of a person, this psychopath. And so then when his transformation is complete, it does hit with some real shock value. And I think that, if anything, The Killing Joke serves as a great bookend maybe for Mark Hamill's career as this character, because I don't know how many more kicks at it we're going to get with this guy. He himself has said that his days of playing the Joker might be coming to an end pretty soon. This is standout work for him. It's not a standout animated film. Honestly, I have to say that I enjoyed Justice League Gods and Monsters more. I enjoyed Assault on Arkham. I enjoyed Batman vs. Robin. I enjoyed Under the Red Hood a little bit more. The animated Dark Knight Returns collection. This is good, but it's definitely not the best. I'm going to give Batman The Killing Joke a 7.5 out of 10.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.